You're surrounded by fools pretending to be virtuous. Diogenes, what if I told you that almost everything you've been taught to admire, polite manners, well-crafted appearances, but social etiquette, even moral outrage, is nothing more than a mask, a performance, a rehearsed script that people wear to appear good while staying far from actually being good? And what if I told you the world around you is filled with people who have mastered this performance so well that they've forgotten they're even acting? Welcome to the philosophy of Diogenes, the man who walked through the streets of Athens in daylight carrying a lantern, claiming to be looking for just one honest man and never finding him. This isn't just a critique of hypocrisy. It's something deeper. Diogenes didn't just call out liars, he called out society itself as a lie. A structure built to reward appearances over authenticity, to elevate those who say the right things, dress the right way, and play the right role, while quietly punishing those who dare to live honestly, even if that honesty is ugly, raw, bitter, or offensive. He believed that most people are not truly virtuous, they're just terrified of being judged. They act good because they fear social punishment, not because they understand or love the good. And that difference matters more than we realize. Think about your own life. How often do you catch yourself filtering what you say, not because it's false, but because it's unpopular? How many times have you nodded in agreement just to avoid conflict, or posted something online, not because you believed it deeply, but because you knew it would look good? We've all done it. We're all, in some way, part of the performance. But Diogenes challenges us to ask, at what cost? If we sacrifice truth for social approval, if we suppress our real thoughts to maintain the image of virtue, are we not becoming the very fools we claim to despise? He lived this philosophy to the extreme. He slept in a barrel. He begged for food. He rejected wealth, power, and even basic comfort, not because he was crazy, but because he wanted to prove a point that virtue, real virtue, needs nothing from society. It doesn't need a title, a robe, or applause. It is self-sufficient. It is honest. It is brutal, and it cannot coexist with pretense. He exposed the contradiction of a society that celebrates truth in theory, but punishes it in practice. And if you look around today, really look, you might see that not much has changed.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We live in a world where image rules, where people curate their lives like highlight reels, where cancel culture has created a climate of fear, not morality, where virtue is often confused with performance. Look at the influencers, the politicians, the activists. How many of them are truly driven by principle, and how many are just good at playing the role? Even in our friendships, our families, our workplaces, how often is truth spoken freely? And how often is it edited, softened, hidden beneath layers of diplomatic language? Here's the dangerous question: can you even be fully honest and still belong in modern society? Or must belonging itself require a kind of self-betrayal? Diogenes would say, belonging is overrated. He saw society's approval as a trap, a golden cage. The more you crave it, the more you'll lie to keep it. The more you fear rejection, the more you'll trade authenticity for acceptance. And over time, those trades accumulate. They shape you. Until one day you wake up and realize you become a person who is liked by everyone except yourself. The fools Diogenes spoke of weren't stupid. Many were educated, respected, even admired. But they were fools because they mistook appearance for essence. They thought that saying the right words made them wise, that donating money made them generous, that promoting awareness made them moral. But he saw through it all. He saw that most of what people call virtue is just a clever form of selfishness designed to earn praise, avoid criticism, and maintain status. So ask yourself, if no one could see your actions, if no one ever knew what you did or said, would you still do the same things? If not, are you being virtuous or just performing? This is the uncomfortable mirror Diogenes holds up to us. It's not meant to shame, but to awaken, to remind us that real virtue is often lonely. It's not glamorous. It's not rewarded. It's not always polite. In fact, it might make you weird, disliked, or even hated. But it's real, it's yours, and in a world built on pretending, that's the most radical thing you can be. He challenges us to strip away the layers, to stop performing, to speak plainly, to live simply, to stop chasing approval and start chasing truth, even if that truth is ugly, even if it costs us everything. Because the cost of pretending, in the long run, is far greater. It's the slow erosion of your soul. So what do you do when you realize you're surrounded by fools pretending to be virtuous? You don't try to fix them. You fix yourself. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You start living according to what you know is true, not what you're told is right. And yes, it will be hard. You'll lose friends. You'll be misunderstood. But you'll gain something far more valuable, your freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you'll understand why Diogenes would rather live in a barrel than be a celebrated hypocrite. You'll see that true virtue doesn't shine under the spotlight, it thrives in the shadows, where no one's watching. The virtue delusion, how goodness became a marketing strategy. There was a time when virtue was something you cultivated in the dark, when no one was around to praise you, when your motives were invisible and your actions were guided by internal conviction rather than external reward. But something changed. Slowly, subtly, the idea of being good was replaced by the idea of looking good. And in that shift, something sacred was lost. Today, goodness has become a product and a brand, a performance polished for public consumption. It's not about who you are anymore, it's about who people think you are. And that's the core of the virtue delusion. Diogenes saw it long ago, that once society starts rewarding appearances over substance, people will naturally optimize for the rewards. Why work on being courageous, honest, or humble when you can appear to be all three and get the same, or even greater, praise? Why wrestle with your vices in the quiet solitude of your soul when you can post a carefully worded caption and be celebrated for your vulnerability? Why confront your own inner contradictions when you can signal your virtue to others and be called enlightened? The modern world has turned morality into marketing. We wear causes like fashion. We signal support for movements we don't understand. We repost slogans, not because we've thought about them deeply, but because we know they'll be well received. We speak out, but only when it's safe, only when the crowd will cheer. And then we call ourselves brave. But bravery, real bravery, means risking something. It means saying the unpopular truth when the mob wants blood. It means standing alone. And how many people today are truly willing to do that? Let's be honest, in the age of social media, doing good is often just another form of performance. We've created a world where it's more rewarding to appear virtuous than to actually be virtuous. And when appearance becomes more profitable than authenticity, the truth becomes inconvenient. It becomes something to hide or worse, something to edit. People curate their personas like brands, using morality as a marketing tool. But if your goodness disappears when the cameras are off, was it ever real? Diogenes would have laughed, no, raged at this. He didn't believe in softly correcting the deluded. He believed in exposing them, in tearing down the illusion. He would walk into modern society and see a world of influencers preaching self-love while hating themselves, corporations promoting sustainability while exploiting workers, the celebrities calling for justice while living in gated mansions. And he'd ask one simple question: who are you when no one's watching? And that's the question we all need to wrestle with. Who are you when no one's watching? Would you still be kind if there were no likes, no praise, no reward? Would you still fight for justice if it cost you your job, your friends, your reputation? Would you still speak the truth if it made you hated? Because that's what real virtue demands. Not a performance, but a sacrifice. Not applause, but integrity. Not marketing, but meaning. We've created a system that rewards the opposite. It's easier than ever to fake virtue. You can buy the right clothes, say the right words, donate to the right causes, and still be a coward, a liar, a hypocrite. And the worst part, the world will applaud you for it. It will call you good. It will give you followers, status, admiration. But Diogenes would spit on that kind of admiration. He'd call it what it is, a lie. And here's the tragedy: when we reward fake virtue, we discourage real virtue. Because real virtue is quiet, it's slow, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't market well. But it's the only kind of virtue that matters. And if we don't protect it, if we don't defend it, we will lose it completely. So what do? We start with ourselves. We stop curating. We start confronting. We ask hard questions. We tell uncomfortable truths. We say less and do more. We stop trying to impress and start trying to transform. Because only then do we begin to escape the virtue delusion. Only then do we stop being performers in someone else's morality play and start becoming real human beings again. And maybe that's what Diogenes really wanted. Not a world of perfect people, but a world of honest ones. People who know their flaws and don't hide them. People who seek truth, not popularity. People who would rather be rejected for what they are than celebrated for what they pretend to be. The courage to be hated. Why truth-tellers are always outside a truth is rarely welcome. It's not warm. It's not polite. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't adapt itself to the room. It arrives uninvited and unmoved, like a storm that refuses to wait until you've put your things in order. And that's why those who speak it really speak it are so often hated. Not disliked, hated. Because truth doesn't just challenge people's opinions, it threatens their identity. It shakes the foundation of the stories they've built their lives on. And for most, that is unbearable. So the messenger must be punished, not the message. And that's why truth-tellers are almost always forced to the outside. Diogenes knew this better than anyone. He didn't just speak truth, he embodied it. He stripped away everything society said a man needed to be respectable. But he had no wealth, no home, no title. And yet, he had something most people never find: freedom. He was feared, mocked, and marginalized, not because he was wrong, but because he was right in a way that made people deeply uncomfortable. He revealed that their virtue was performative, their values conditional, their truth flexible. And instead of confronting that, they pushed him to the margins. Because that's what the world does to those who refuse to lie. Ask yourself, why are the people we remember most, Socrates, Galileo, Jesus, Mandela, so often the ones who were imprisoned, exiled, executed, or silenced? Why is it that the more a person clings to truth, the more the world tries to break them? It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. Because societies aren't built to reward truth, they're built to reward stability. And truth is inherently unstable. It disturbs, it disrupts, it demands change. And change is threatening to those who benefit from the current order. So, if you want to speak the truth, really speak it, you must be willing to be hated. But you must be willing to lose comfort, community, even love. Because the moment you stop saying what people want to hear and start saying what they need to hear, they will turn on you. Not always out of malice, but out of fear. And that's the paradox. The more truth you carry, the more alone you often become. But here's the twist: the outsider, the one rejected for refusing to conform, is often the only one who is actually free. Because when you no longer need to be liked, when you no longer fear being cast out, you become untouchable. You can say what you believe. You can live how you choose. You can stop pretending. And that's why Diogenes was dangerous, not because he had power, but because he couldn't be controlled. He needed nothing from society, so society had no leverage over him. Most of us, if we're honest, are still addicted to approval. We crave it. We chase it. We mold ourselves to fit what others find acceptable. We silence ourselves to avoid rejection. But every time we do that, we become a little smaller, a little less real, a little more hollow, until, eventually, we've built a life that's comfortable but false, that's admired but empty. So what's the alternative? To choose truth over comfort, to say what you mean, even when your voice shakes, to live according to your principles, even when no one applauds, to walk away from the crowd, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because once you see the game for what it is, you can't keep playing it, not without losing your soul. But this path isn't for everyone. It's cold, it's lonely, it's misunderstood. People will call you arrogant, disrespectful, even dangerous. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to shame you back into the performance. And you'll be tempted again and again to put the mask back on, to shrink yourself to fit. But you must resist. Because once you betray your truth to be accepted, you've already lost the part of you that matters most. And maybe, just maybe, that's the cost of living honestly. You lose the crowd, but you gain yourself. And what could be more valuable than that? The Last Honest Life, How to Live Free in a World Addicted to Applause. There's a strange, exhilarating kind of silence that comes after you stop performing. When you no longer measure your worth by the number of people clapping. When you no longer tailor your words to avoid offense or bend your thoughts to match the crowd. That silence is terrifying at first. It's the sound of 1,000 false identities dying at once. But if you can sit in it, if you can endure the emptiness it reveals, you'll find something far more powerful than applause: peace. Living honestly in a world addicted to performance isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily revolt. Every conversation becomes a choice. Do I say what I really believe, or do I say what will be rewarded? Every action becomes a test. Am I acting out of conviction or out of fear? And every moment asks you the same question: will you be real, even if it costs you everything? Diogenes didn't choose honesty because it was pleasant. He chose it because it was real. That's the word we forget in all our talk about goodness and virtue: realness. It's not enough to be seen doing good. You have to be good when no one's watching. You have to love truth more than you love your reputation. You have to be willing to be misunderstood, misquoted, even hated because you refuse to participate in the lie. And let's be clear, the lie is everywhere. It's in the way people speak in boardrooms without ever saying anything. It's in the way we smile at people we secretly resent. It's in the way we curate every pixel of our online lives to look authentic while hiding everything that's inconvenient. But we have built an entire culture around the idea that perception is reality. That if it looks good, it must be good. That if it sounds right, it must be true. But that's a dangerous illusion, because when we confuse image with essence, we stop growing. We stop questioning. We stop being alive. So what does it mean to live an honest life? It doesn't mean being cruel. It doesn't mean shouting your opinions at strangers. It means having the courage to know yourself and to keep knowing yourself, even when everything around you tries to distract you from that task. It means choosing truth over comfort, clarity over chaos, solitude over shallow praise. It means building a life that makes sense to you, even if no one else understands it. And that's the hardest part: being okay with not being understood. We are wired to seek connection, to want to be seen, to crave the warmth of belonging. But Diogenes teaches us that belonging at the cost of your soul is not belonging at all. It's just a slow death in disguise. Real connection can only happen when you show up as yourself. Not your brand, not your mask, you. And if that self is rejected, let it be rejected. Better to be hated for what you are than loved for what you're not. So here's the final question I leave you with. What would your life look like if you stopped pretending? If you stopped chasing applause? If you stopped filtering every word, every thought, every action through the lens of other people's expectations? Who would you be if you had the courage to live without the mask? Because that's the last honest life. Not the easiest life, not the safest, but the truest. And in a world full of fools pretending to be virtuous, truth is the only rebellion that matters. And maybe, just maybe, that's why Diogenes walked through the streets with a lantern in broad daylight. Not because he expected to find an honest man, but because he refused to stop looking. And now the question stands before you. Will you keep pretending? Or will you light your own lantern and start searching for what's real? Because the world doesn't need more good actors. It needs more honest ones.